Welcome back for another deep dive. This one's going to be juicy. We're looking at this Galaxy Digital Research report called Entering the Digital Golden Era.
Yeah.
And they released it,
Just a couple days.
yeah, just a couple days after the election results, the 2024 election. It's pretty fascinating stuff.
Yeah. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, even without getting into the crypto stuff, the election itself was, pretty historic.
Oh, absolutely.
So I guess we can start there, just as like a, super quick recap.
Yeah.
Trump back in the White House, bigger win than 2016,
Yeah, much bigger.
both electoral and popular vote. Looks like
Uh-huh.
Republicans are going to have the Senate. We'll see about the House.
Right.
But so that in and of itself is like pretty historical, right?
Yeah, you don't see that very often, presidents winning non-consecutive terms.
Right.
Grover Cleveland, I think, was the last one.
That's what the report said, right? But then layer on top of that what happened with, crypto in the election and like some of the crypto packs. That's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
It seems like now opposing crypto, like as a politician, is like maybe not a great move.
It's a bad move. It's a liability.
Yeah, and this report highlights, Senator Sherrod Brown, who, has been a pretty vocal critic.
Yeah, one of the most vocal, for sure.
And he lost his seat, and it seems like a lot of that was
Targeted
in politics. So I guess the question is, what does that mean for the actual, future of crypto? Not just the politics, but like
the technology, the
markets. And that's where this report, jumps in and starts, making some predictions.
Yeah. And they're pretty bold predictions, too.
Yeah. So I guess we can start with, Trump. He's back in the White House. His inner circle, according to this report, is like pretty crypto-friendly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got J.D. Vance, who's now the vice president-elect.
Right, who's a Bitcoin holder.
Vivek Ramaswamy was very outspoken during the primaries about his support for crypto.
And I mean, Trump himself,
Yeah.
obviously with the NFTs.
Right. Launched his own NFT collection. And then, of course, he's got that whole DeFi protocol.
Yeah. So we've got this like a very crypto-friendly administration, which potentially means that some of the stuff that they, talked about on the campaign trail might actually happen.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about that. The report specifically highlights, banking and how, crypto is going to be treated by banks.
Yeah.
So are we talking like banks actually holding Bitcoin and Ethereum?
Yeah. Well, that's what the report suggests.
Right.
It basically argues that, with Trump's likely appointees to the OCC and the FDIC.
Right, which are those key banking regulators.
Exactly.
Okay, so that whole choke point 2.0 thing, it's like...
Right, preventing choke point 2.0, basically making sure that banks aren't pressured to discriminate against legitimate crypto businesses.
Okay.
Exactly. No more shadowy pressure tactics to try and freeze out the industry.
Okay. And they're even suggesting like maybe going further than that and actually allowing banks to custody
digital assets directly. Yeah, that's what the report argues. Even engaging with blockchains, stable coins, you name it.
Wow.
Isn't it? But, it's not without precedent.
Right.
I mean, during Trump's first term, Brian Brooks, the acting controller of the currency, he issued some interpretive letters that were quite favorable to crypto.
Okay, so that's the banking side. But what about the SEC? I mean, they've been, pretty tough on crypto lately.
Yeah, especially with that whole everything's a security approach.
Yeah, like, come on.
It's been a bit of a headache for the industry, for sure. It anticipates a shift there, too. It suggests that Trump might elevate one of the current SEC commissioners to acting chair, which would likely lead to a pause on crypto-related lawsuits and enforcement actions.
Okay, so like a ceasefire while they figure out a longer-term approach?
Exactly.
Right. What is an exchange?
Because right now it's a bit of a Wild West.
Yeah. So, all right. So we've got a potentially friendlier White House, regulators hitting the pause button.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be quite a different landscape.
And crypto flexing some political muscle.
Yeah.
So where does that leave institutional investors?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are the big players finally ready to jump in?
The report, they're saying that with this relaxed regulatory environment, like a lot of these institutional investors that have been kind of sitting on the sidelines.
Right.
Because they were worried about all the, legal uncertainties.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense. But now they might be more willing to finally, dip their toes in the water.
So we're talking like big money.
Big money. Pension funds.
Hedge funds.
Hedge funds.
Like endowments.
Yeah, like those massive endowments that Harvard and Yale are sitting on.
Right.
Like the kind of money that can really move markets.
Yeah, exactly. And remember those custody banks we were talking about earlier?
Oh, the report specifically mentions easing SAB 121, which would basically open the door for
big guys, yeah.
the big guys like BNY Mellon, Citigroup, JP Morgan.
All of them. To offer crypto custody.
That's a game changer, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if those institutions start offering crypto custody services, that's like...
It legitimizes the whole thing.
It's like giving crypto the Wall Street seal of approval.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And with that legitimacy comes more institutional money, more financing options, wider availability of spot crypto, you name it.
So we're not just talking about, like, Bitcoin hitting new all-time highs. We're talking about like a complete transformation of the financial system, right?
It's an apt analogy, I think, because the report even goes as far as to suggest that traditional institutions might start operating on-chain themselves. Okay, so imagine a world where stock trading happens instantly and seamlessly on a blockchain. No more intermediaries, no more waiting days for settlements,
right?
Or picture bonds and other securities being issued and managed on-chain, with transparent records and automated compliance. It's like taking the entire financial system and giving it a turbocharged upgrade.
So like my grandma in rural Nebraska can send money to her cousin in Italy in like seconds.
For pennies. Yeah.
For pennies. That's wild. Okay, so we're talking about like faster transactions, lower costs.
Greater access to financial products and services.
For everyone.
Especially for those who haven't always been well served by the traditional system.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's pretty exciting stuff. But didn't you say earlier that like traditional finance might even merge with DeFi?
Yeah, that's another possibility the report explores.
What would that even look like?
Well, imagine accessing loans and investment opportunities directly through decentralized platforms, cutting out the middlemen and their fees. Or picture being able to seamlessly move your assets between traditional banks and DeFi protocols, getting the best of both worlds.
Mind officially blown. Okay, so, like, is there anything bad about all this?
Well, like with any major technological shift, there will be challenges and risks. Regulatory uncertainty is still a big one, and we can't forget that the crypto market can be incredibly volatile, even if the long-term trends are positive.
Right, like this isn't a get-rich-quick scheme.
Exactly. And that's a key takeaway for our listeners today. This isn't just about Bitcoin going up or down.
Right.
This is about a whole new financial ecosystem emerging, and it's going to impact everyone, whether they're actively invested in crypto or not. It's putting it mildly.
Okay, where should they start?
Well, Galaxy Digital has a ton of great resources on their website, including their Digital Assets Academy.
Oh, right.
Which is a great starting point for learning the basics. Yeah.
Especially in this space. All right.
Yeah, they get pretty granular with it.
So remember how Bitcoin, like, went crazy after the election?
Oh, yeah. Blew past its previous all-time high.
Like, the market was throwing a party for Trump. So is this just, like, a temporary sugar rush, or is there something more substantial behind it?
Well, the report argues that it's more than just hype. They analyze Bitcoin's historical price cycles, comparing this bull run to those of 2017 and 2021.
Okay.
And guess what?
Yeah.
It's right on track, even slightly ahead of schedule.
So it's not just like a bunch of traders getting carried away with the election results.
Not according to this analysis, no. And they also point out that the drawdowns we've seen in 2024 have been relatively mild compared to previous bull markets.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which suggests a more mature and resilient market.
That makes sense. But are there any signs that things might be getting a little overheated?
The report examines a couple of key on-chain metrics to answer that question. One is the realized HODL ratio, which is basically a way to measure the balance between short-term and long-term holders.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to time the market, always wondering if you're buying at the top. That's where this ratio comes in handy.
Interesting.
Not according to this metric, no.
Yeah.
They also look at the MVRV Z-score, which is like a historical speedometer for Bitcoin.
Okay.
It compares the current market value to its historical average, telling you if the price is running hot or cool. And again, no major warning signs here.
Okay.
It suggests that Bitcoin is not in bubble territory, at least not yet.
Two key on-chain metrics giving the all clear for now. But the report also mentions this interesting connection between Bitcoin and global money supply, or M2.
Oh, yeah, that's a fascinating idea.
Can you unpack that for me?
Yeah. So the report observes that Bitcoin has historically shown some correlation with global M2, which is essentially a measure of the total amount of money slashing around in the world.
Right.
That correlation could get even stronger.
Like Larry Fink was saying.
Exactly, like Larry Fink was saying.
So are you saying that Bitcoin could become like a digital version of gold?
Potentially, yeah. A safe haven asset.
For when the traditional financial system gets shaky.
Exactly. If it gains wider acceptance as a store of value and a hedge against monetary debasement,
Right.
its price could become even more sensitive to changes in global money supply.
It's a big if.
It's a big if, yeah.
But definitely something to think about.
Absolutely.
So let me just recap here for a second. We have a potential for regulatory changes that could unleash a wave of institutional money. We have Bitcoin potentially becoming like a global macro asset, and we have on-chain metrics suggesting that the market isn't overheating yet.
It's shaping up to be quite an interesting time for crypto, that's for sure.
It does sound like all the pieces are falling into place for that digital golden era, right?
Yeah.
But before we get too carried away with the whole like digital gold rush thing, let's like bring it back down to earth for a second. What does this all actually mean for, the average person listening right now?
That's the question, isn't it? And it's one of the report addresses directly. One of the most exciting possibilities is how this whole shift toward crypto could ripple through the entire financial system.
So less about Bitcoin's price and more about the real world impact.
Think about it. Imagine a financial system that's actually built for the 21st century.
Right.
Not stuck in the era of paper checks and slow wire transfers.
Yeah.
If traditional institutions start operating on chain, we could see a dramatic increase in efficiency, transparency, and just access to financial services in general.
So what, my grandma in rural Nebraska could suddenly send money to her cousin in Italy in seconds.
For pennies, yeah. Faster transaction speeds, lower costs, greater access to financial products and services, even for those who haven't always been, well served by the traditional system.
Right. That's future I can get behind. But wait, didn't you say earlier that traditional finance might even merge with DeFi?
Yeah, that's another possibility the report explored.
What would that even look like?
Well, imagine accessing loans and investment opportunities directly through decentralized platforms, cutting out the middleman and all their fees. Or picture, seamlessly moving your assets between traditional banks and DeFi protocols, getting the best of both worlds.
Okay, mind officially blown. Are there, any downsides to all of this?
Well, I mean, like with any major technological shift, there will be challenges and risks along the way, right?
Right.
Regulatory uncertainty is still a big one. And we can't forget that the crypto market can be incredibly volatile. Exactly.
This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a fundamental shift in how we think about and interact with money and finance.
This isn't just about Bitcoin going up or down.
Right.
This is about a whole new financial ecosystem emerging, and it's going to impact everyone, whether they're actively invested in crypto or not.
So basically what you're saying is, if you're not paying attention to this space, you might just miss out on the biggest financial revolution in decades. Yeah.
The future of finance is being written right now.
Yeah.
And it's up to each of us to decide how we want to participate.
Well said. So for anyone listening who's feeling inspired to, dive deeper, where should they start?
Galaxy Digital has a ton of great resources on their website, including their Digital Assets Academy, which is a great starting point for learning the basics.
Perfect. And remember, folks, knowledge is power, especially in this crazy, fast-moving world of digital assets.
For sure.
So stay curious, keep learning, and who knows, you might just strike digital gold.
Indeed. Happy exploring.
That's all for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration into the world that's changing right before our eyes.